Given that a lot of business presentations are done around conference tables, I'm in a seated position now. I'm about to stand to present. And when I do so, I'm going to stand up and I'm not going to speak at all until I get into speaking position. Instead, I'm going to push in my chair appropriately. That does a couple of things. It gives us a really cool little pause, and it also just looks a little more neat and professional, because oftentimes we have coats or purses or things hanging off the back of our chair, so we want to take the time to push them in to give a nice clean look. We also would prefer not to have anybody at our backs when we're presenting, so if you need to take a step or two out to get in a better position to have more of your audience in front of you, you want to do so. Now remember, you haven't spoken yet when you're standing up. It's a mistake of amateur speakers to begin speaking as they rise, and that causes a conflict between the body saying, I'm getting ready, and the words already presenting. Our body language should always support our words, and anytime the two are in conflict, we weaken our words. So once we get stood up, we want to stand with our feet shoulder or hip width apart. We want balance. We don't want to start in an awkward position with our legs crossed or our toes pointed in different directions. And we do that often when we get nervous. I can tell you, when I go to the dentist, my legs are crossed and holding on for dear life. But when I speak, my legs are spread into a good balanced position with my toes pointed in the same direction, as few people as possible behind me. I want to face as many people as I can. Our hands, a lot of people will tell me, I don't know what to do with my hands when I speak. Well, with all due respect to any of you that feel that way, you're wrong. You know exactly what to do with your hands, and you do it all the time. When you're speaking with your friends in the hallway or in the parking lot or casually, I'll bet you're not worried about what to do with your hands. And you want the same thing to happen when you're presenting. You want to gesture naturally. So for a starting position, we're going to start with our hands at our side, with the goal of beginning to gesture almost immediately when we begin to speak. Now the secret is we've got to relax our shoulders. If we don't, we're going to lock up and be presenting like this the entire time. That's not good. Another position we could start in is with the hands lightly clasped at the belly button. Now I say lightly because if you grip too hard, you'll be like this the entire presentation, and you don't want to be. So very light so that you'll instinctively begin to gesture. Now a lot of people, when they get nervous, go through all kinds of gyrations with their hands because they're afraid of flopping around and looking like one of those guys out in front of the car wash. And you don't want to look like that. So we worry about that, and we're self-conscious, so we do things like the at ease position, favorite among particularly ex-military. The fig leaf position, for any of you art history majors out there, or what I call the flower girl, favorite among many women. And sometimes you'll even see folks kind of comforting themselves, like it's gonna be all right. And then of course the favorite guy position, because suits are just designed that you just can't hardly help but put your hands in your pockets. They're like little holsters with the way suit pockets are designed. Now there's a difference between putting your hands in your pockets for a few seconds in a casual, relaxed look and putting your hands in your pockets because you're really nervous and leaving them there the whole presentation. Now, of course, the problem with all of these positions is it makes it very hard to gesture. We can't say we need to get profits up and we need to all come together if our hands are in our pockets. Now, another problem with that is when we lock our hands up like this, we still have all that nervous energy if we haven't done the chair grip that we learned previously. And so all that nervous energy will go to our legs, and you'll see people begin to sway like this as they present. I once saw a student present an entire 5-minute speech like this when I was auditing a class, not my class. And of course the irony is they were doing this because they didn't want to look silly, right? So hands want to gesture naturally almost right away. We want to be big and balanced. Do not be afraid if your hands start to get wide. We also become self-conscious of that. If we naturally feel like going wide, some of us will kind of rein it in because we're afraid we're too flopping out there like a bird. Don't worry about it. If that's your natural gesture and you feel yourself going wide, let yourself go wide. Your big ideas should be presented with wide gestures. People who gesture small are seen as small, and their ideas are seen as small. It's all right to get out there, put a little air under those wings. Gesture big and balanced. That's the way we gotta go. Now, we want these to be natural gestures, but there are two things that I would like for you to unlearn. We can always learn new things and still be ourselves, right? So the first thing I want you to unlearn is pointing. Do not point ever. Even if it's good news, you won the lottery. It's still perceived as aggressive. And you're thinking, great, I won the lottery, now get that finger out of my face. So how do you indicate somebody, if you can't point at them, that you need to? Open-handed is a much better way to gesture and point out someone. Now, something else really cool happens when you do that. When you're pointing like this, our language instinctively becomes us, you, me, you. When we open this up a little more, our language instinctively starts to become we, together, all of us. So we want to undo pointing, and the last gesture we want to undo are fists. Don't ever make fists. You see, politicians do this a lot, but fists are almost always considered aggressive. Instead, open-handed, from the heart, not from the heart. Open-handed. All right, so we want to kind of file those in the back of our head, but keep them a little bit present. You've got a lot to worry about, but just gesture naturally is your goal. Stand confidently. You'll look more confident. That will give you good feedback from your audience, which will cause you to be even more confident. It will begin to snowball. It will help you stay in the present and the here, right now, and it will help you be a much better presenter.